In January of 2023, I retired from my 9-to-5 job and I started living off of my dividend portfolio. Before that, I'd been working for well over 10 years, saving, investing, side hustling, investing into real estate, traveling all over the world from Germany, different parts of America. It was a long experience working and pursuing towards financial independence. In January of 2023, I was laid off from my software sales job. At that point in time, I was 37 years old and I had a choice. I could either try to find a new job or I could live off of my dividend portfolio, at least the amount that I had at the time. Unfortunately, the dividend portfolio didn't pay for all of our living expenses, so I decided to retire off of what is called barista fire. So reaching financial independence, retiring early, but I'm still working part-time. So I'm not a barista in the sense of I don't work at Starbucks. I make YouTube videos here on YouTube. And a lot of you who are longtime subscriber of the channel, you've been watching my videos for many years. And I was at a point where my dividend portfolio would pay for my living expenses and the income that I got from YouTube would cover our expenses. At the time, my wife was still working. She had a stay-at-home job. She was working in tech. And so it made sense for her to keep working, for us mostly to be able to keep our expenses low, mostly with healthcare. If you know anything about the healthcare system here in America, it's very expensive. And so by having her still work, we're able to keep our expenses relatively low. So that was the very first year in 2023. Now here in 2024 is the second year that I've retired and lived off of my dividend portfolio, and I want to share my experience this last year with all of you. I made a similar video last year sharing my experience of the first year of living off my dividend portfolio. Today, I'm going to share with you what it was like in the second year of living off of my dividend portfolio. So I'm going to share with you the highlights, the lowlights. I'm going to share with you our finances, our expenses, our budget, and what we made in 2024 from all of our income sources, as well as the key takeaways from my experience of living off of my dividend portfolio in the second year. If you're a long-term subscriber of mine, I don't like to fluff anything. I like to share what it's really like. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to add a lot of bells and whistles to this video. I'm going to tell you what it was really like. I'm going to invite you into my experience and hopefully it resonates with you. I want to acknowledge that my situation is probably very different than the majority of you watching this video. Maybe you're still working, maybe you're older and retired, maybe you have lived your life and you're in retirement having, maybe you had a similar experience or completely different. All I'm doing with this is sharing with you my experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's start off with the highlights. The highlights of this second year of living off of my dividend portfolio, what I realized if I were to summarize this an entire year, I would say that I got to do a lot more of what I already enjoy to do. I didn't develop any real new hobbies last year, and I didn't do more than what I did before. I realized that if I like to go hiking, I hiked quite a bit more than I did while I was working my full-time job. If I liked going and spending time with my son, I got to spend more time with my son. And so all of the hobbies that I had before retirement, I noticed that I got to do them a lot more. I went hiking all the time in the summer. I went hiking with my little boy, Lucas, who's 3 years old. I got to teach him about the different types of trails, the different types of trees. We got to have so much fun.
I'm almost there.
We just started.
I just started?
Yeah, we're not almost there. And during this time, once a week, what I got to do was have what's called Boys Day. My son and I, we would go out and we would have Boys Day once or twice a week where it's just me and him, where we go hiking, we go to the mall, we go to the store, we go to the library, we go do different things, but it was just the two of us. And I got to really enjoy that. The thing is, if I was still working my 9-to-5, he would be in daycare. He would be in daycare and I wouldn't see him. I had the experience while I was working when he was 1 and 2, where he was in daycare. I wasn't able to spend time with him. It was really difficult. Now, everybody is different, right? Some people, they can't wait to send their kids off to daycare. More power to them. For me, I really enjoy spending time with my son, and I see that as a major part of my next chapter in my life is spending time with him and my wife and family and all that good stuff. So there's a little bit of something for everybody. Some of you might be hearing that and thinking, oh, I can't wait to get away from my family. To each their own. But for me, that was an absolute highlight, was being able to spend time with my son and having what we called Boys' Day. So if I can summarize this first point of the highlight, it is to say that I didn't really develop any new hobbies. I did a lot more of what I already enjoyed to do. And so that's the first highlight of this second year of living off of my dividend portfolio, is I got to do more of what I already enjoy to do.
I did it again!
Yay!
I did it again!
Another highlight in the second year was I got to travel hack a little bit more. We got to go on a few little vacations. You know, we went around Labor Day. We drove up through Montana, up to Idaho. We got to stay in some pretty nice hotels on, credit card points. And so sign up bonuses, credit card hacking, we really took that to heart in this second year. And we had a lot of experiences for basically nothing, for free. And so, it's with intentional spending, being responsible, right? If you've never heard of travel hacking, essentially you're using credit cards to your advantage. You're paying them off. You're not paying any interest on them. And you're using the points to have experiences. And we got to do that quite a bit here in the second year. And, a little bit of a spoiler, if you follow my channel, we're going to be doing that a lot more here next year because we're going to have a lot more time and we've been planning for this. So travel hacking was a huge highlight in this second year. And if you're preparing for fire or anything, similar to that, or if not, right, you're just looking for financial independence, I think travel hacking is one of those things. It's a hidden gem if you've never heard of it. And I would encourage you to check it out because the barrier to entry in terms of traveling and the cost, it can help reduce that. And that was a huge highlight for us here in this last year, was travel hacking. Another highlight of this last year was a slower pace of life. One of the main goals for pursuing FIRE was to have a slower pace of life. I was always on the go and always stressed with work before reaching FIRE. We had such a nice pace this last year. I just think back, years ago when I was living and working in Germany and in Austin, sitting in traffic, always on the go, trying to get home as fast as I could so I could spend 2 hours before I had to go to bed again, and just always on the go. This year was even slower than the first year that we were living off of our portfolio. So we had a much slower pace of life in our second year of living off of dividends. And for me, that was a huge highlight because not everyone's the same. I'm more of an introvert. I get my energy and enjoyment from recharging with my wife and I just sitting at home doing our thing while still, getting out and doing other things, right? But I really get a lot of joy out of a slower pace of life, not having to always be stressed, always on the go. And so that was a huge highlight for the second year of living off of dividends. Now, not everything is rainbows and roses and everything works out. Unfortunately, there are lowlights to also living off of dividends, and everyone's experience is going to be a little bit different. But I want to share with you my personal experiences. There's no fluff here. I'm only human, and I'm going to share with you one of the big mistakes that I made this last year. So the low light of last year was I learned a very valuable lesson when it comes to risk taking and margin in 2024. And that has to do with cash secured puts and my dividend strategy as a whole. I had to touch the hot stove to learn about my risk tolerance when it comes to cash secured puts, selling options for income, right? I've talked a little bit about this on my channel in the past, but if you're not familiar with that, essentially it's what level of risk you're willing to take in any investment strategy. Okay. And most particularly with this experience that I had this last year, it has to do with a cash secured put that got out of control. And it was a very, very stressful situation. And I unfortunately had to touch the hot stove to learn that that's not what I want to do going forward. And so that was a very, very stressful time because essentially I put our retirement in jeopardy unnecessarily. So the main point that I want to drive home with this is I learned a valuable lesson about myself and my risk tolerance when it comes to my investment portfolio. Because we have to understand is when you're working your day job, every 2 weeks you're getting your paycheck, right? Whether you're performing well, you're having a good day at work, you're having a bad day at work, that paycheck is generally still coming in if you have a job. When it comes to your investments, there's a few other variables at play, right? The market's going to do what the market does based off of your diversification and how your portfolio is set up. So I took on a lot more risk than I should have. And thankfully, it worked out at the end of 2024 and it ended on a positive note. So I'm very, very grateful for that. But that was one big lowlight was I took on more risk than I should have. And I will never do that again. So it was a very, very valuable lesson. Another lowlight for me was with YouTube. I started doing 2 videos a week, and part of that was because of the risk that I was taking. Needed a little bit more money, so there's that. I did have more time on my hands, but that was connected as well. So you may have noticed that if you're a follower of the channel. Oh, Jake's doing 2 videos, but I got burned out a bit, with making YouTube videos. It was constantly on my mind. I'm constantly looking at things. I'm always dialing in and connected, and so that was too much. I noticed that it was too much, and I going forward, I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to balance that out a bit more. And so with that, I had a little bit, of social media burnout, right? Last year was a bit polarizing with, the election here in America. America's the land of extremes. You got polarization with everything, every topic imaginable. But I just noticed for myself that I was dialed in on my phone and on social media just too much. And that was a low light. And I made some changes here at the end of last year and, I deleted my LinkedIn. I don't have LinkedIn anymore. I deleted I deleted my account entirely. And on Instagram, I deleted Instagram off of my phone. So I'm not even on Instagram on my phone. And so I'm trying to take a detox from social media. But that was a low light for me was, yes, I have more time. I'm doing all these other great things, but I still have even more time, I guess. And so like I said at the beginning of this video, I did more of the same of what I did before. I was on my phone and on social media a normal amount before, but this last year I was on there even more. And that was an unhealthy amount. And so I needed to dial that back. But that was definitely a low light and something that, if you're thinking about retirement, you have a lot more time on your hands, that could be a real thing. So something to keep on your mind. Another low light of last year was I had a few health issues that I was struggling with. And it's becoming more apparent that my body is slowing down and I'm no longer in my 20s. I'm not able to do the same things that I was able to do before. And it's kind of like, what is going on? I could always do that before, or I could always eat that and never have any issues before. And now all of a sudden, all of these, things are kind of happening all at once. And, I'm sure there's other people out there that have it much worse than me, much better than me, somewhere in between. But for me, that was a low light because before I had never any issues health-wise for the most part. But last year, I had quite a few. So that was a pretty big low light for me was struggling with a few health issues. So if you're thinking about retiring, just understand that your body, it's going to slowly start to slow down. So just keep that in mind as you're preparing for retirement. If you're in your early 20s, 30s, or however old you may be, you only have one body. And so it's really, really important that you take care of it. All right, so now let's talk about the finances. So last year in 2023, we made about $50,000 in dividend income for the whole year. And in 2024, we made just about the same, right around $50,000 in dividends. Now, this has to do largely with the covered call ETFs that I invest in, where I get a big portion of my income from those. Those can go up and down. I had a few dividend cutters, I think, like with MPW and stuff like that, which didn't represent a large percentage of my portfolio. But that was kind of interesting that the income did not go up significantly. And so to kind of give you a spoiler here, I actually made some updates to my portfolio. I'm going to be sharing them here in the coming weeks. I've made some pretty drastic changes, and it has to do largely with reprioritizing what I want the future to look like for us. A lot of de-risking, stuff like that. But so dividend income stayed relatively flat from year over year. So now I'm going to walk you through our monthly expenses. Last year, in a video similar to this, I shared our monthly budget, our anticipated budget for the year. This year in this video, I'm going to share with you what our actual expenses were on a monthly basis. So on a monthly basis, our largest expense was housing. We have our house in Austin, Texas, property tax, insurance, all of that good stuff, HOA, all of it. And we also have a place up in northern Utah where I grew up, and we pay for housing there as well. The next expense was food and groceries. So this is everything from, cosmetics to groceries, eating out. I just kind of bucket them all together. We don't separate them. It's about $1,300 a month for food and groceries, eating out, all that good stuff. The next expense was, notably about $200 in medical. Now, the medical here is significantly lower than what we budgeted for, and there's two reasons for this. First reason is my wife is still working, and so we're able to get health insurance through her employer. Okay. Now, when she quits next year, we have a date, by the way. I've not talked about that, but we have a date for when she's going to quit. And once she quits, the monthly expense will go up about $1,100 in healthcare premiums. So very, very expensive. And so that was the reason why we were able to keep the medical expenses low, was because my wife was still working. And then lastly, about $500, for other things, just, Netflix, car insurance, everything else, right? Gym membership, all that good stuff. So the total monthly expense for last year was $6,000. This was pretty low compared to our budget last year. So we were able to keep our expenses relatively low. We didn't travel a heck of a lot. I talked about, credit card hacking. We were able to travel with points. So we didn't spend a lot of money. The most money that we spent was getting, Chick-fil-A, getting Five Guys, going and eating out. Like that was our pleasure, I guess you could say, fun times for, I said we were introverts, right? We go watch a movie, get some Chick-fil-A, right? Like maybe sometimes we'll get some, we'll splurge and get, I don't know, a pizza or something, but nothing too extravagant, just pretty basic. All right, so now I'm going to walk you through my monthly income. Now, this doesn't include my wife. I'm just going to focus on what I contributed to our monthly income. And my wife's income is going to disappear here next year. The monthly income, the dividends, we made about $4,100 in dividend income per month. This is averaged out for the whole year. And so this didn't change much from last year. And like I said, I've changed the portfolio up quite a bit. And this number will increase quite a bit next year. And there's a few changes that I made as well with the options and all that good stuff. So $4,000 last year. And the next one here is YouTube. I made some more videos on YouTube for about half the year. I doubled the output in terms of videos that I made. I made 2 videos a week. And you probably have noticed these last couple of months that I've had more sponsored videos. And I've only accepted sponsorships from brands that I trust, that I actually use. And so it worked out very, very well, where I feel comfortable doing it, getting paid to sponsor something that I actually use. So I'm very grateful and thankful that I was able to do that. So I made about $4,000 a month here from YouTube, and very, very grateful for that. This is the most that I've ever made a month since making my channel. So, and I don't sell anything. I don't sell a course. I don't sell anything, right? So this was just purely you watching the videos and the ads, the sponsorships, and the affiliates. So pretty straightforward. And then lastly, the options income, we made $8,000 a month in options income. So you might be looking at this and thinking, wow, well, I'm retired off of dividends, but in reality, I'm kind of retired off of options. And, I don't consider myself an options investor, but the math doesn't lie. I mean, I wouldn't be able to retire if it wasn't for all three of these, right? The dividend income is kind of that steady eddy income. It's consistent. The YouTube income can fluctuate greatly. It can be, it can be all over the place, right? And it's also seasonally. In the summer, it's usually very low, and it just depends on, if I have videos that people watch or not. The options can also vary greatly. It can go up, it can go down month over month. But on average, the market was in a bull market almost every single month last year. There was a few down months, but it was very easy to make money in a bull market with options. In a bear market, this could look entirely different. So I'm just trying to be grounded with how I explain this, because I don't want people to look at this and be like, oh, options are a sure thing. It's a guarantee. But remember one of the lowlights that I shared at the beginning of the video? But one thing that I want to remind you, if you remember one of the lowlights from this last year, it was the stress from the options investing on margin here this year. And so I learned a very, very valuable lesson. Yes, I made good money, but it was very stressful. Okay. And so if you're looking at this, I'm just showing you this for inspiration. It's not, saying that everyone should go and do it. It is a very viable, thing that you can do. I was going to say viable option for options. That sounds weird. It's a very viable thing that you can do. And when I see this, it tells me that I would not be able to live the lifestyle that I'm living without all three. So I need all three to be able to sustain our lives. And, that's my takeaway from this. So that's the real numbers. That's what I made. And, some years it might be more, some years it might be less, but that's been our monthly income here in our second year of living off of our portfolio. Now I want to share with you my major takeaways from this last year and the realizations about living off of dividends for the second year. So the first thing is that I am a lot less risk tolerant than I had thought. The stressful situation that I had with, option selling, not option buying. I've shared videos on this. I don't buy options. I sell them to generate a premium and income. It's kind of like a cover, like what I'm doing is kind of like a covered call ETF, like JEPI or JEPQ. I'm doing it myself as well as owning JEPI and JEPQ. So that's how you can understand that. I was reading the second book from J.L. Collins. If you've heard me talk about J.L. Collins, Simple Path to Wealth, he's kind of the godfather when it comes to, the 4% rule, living off of VTSAX or VTI, total US stock market, fire movement, all that good stuff. There was a paragraph or, a page in his second book, and it really, really resonated with me. And it got me a little teary-eyed because when I read this, I was doing exactly this and I had made a major mistake. And what it said was, it was a story of this lady sharing what happened to her grandfather. And her grandfather was very wealthy in the early 1900s. He had 3 houses in different parts of the country, very, very wealthy, only invested in the stock market. But the issue was, it was primarily on margin. It was all on margin. He was over leveraged. And the quote in the book that resonated with me was, the most important lesson that I learned, referring to the lady about her grandfather, was when near or in retirement, keep what you've got. Do not, under any circumstances, take unnecessary risks hoping to get more. And that was it. I took on more risk than I should have to get more. And I learned that here in this second year. And I will never do it again. I will never do it. I will never do that again. And so that was a huge takeaway from my second year of living off my dividend portfolio, was I am a lot less risk tolerant than I had thought. Another takeaway was that I really appreciate things when there's a balance in all things. And this has to do with how I spend my time, everything, every aspect of life, there has to have a balance. Too much of a good thing is too much. Too much of a bad thing is too much. Having a balance in everything that you do is so, so important. And when you have more time on your hands, it's important that you have a routine. It's important that you balance out how you spend your time. Otherwise, too much of a good thing can also not be a good thing. So that was the second major takeaway, is make sure that you have a balance in all things, and most particularly how I spent my time was my major takeaway. Another major takeaway was I don't have to spend money to be happy. There's many different ways to be happy. Going hiking, it's free to go hiking. I live here in northern Utah where I could go 5 minutes and I can go on a hiking trail and go in nature, and it's beautiful. You don't have to spend money. My son and I, we would go to the library, once a week, and they have books there, kids' books. We would go and spend time and read the books there. I'm never going to buy another book. I'm going to go to the library and I'm going to check it out. You don't have to spend money to be happy. Now, I will say, and I will add, that it makes life a heck of a lot easier if you do have discretionary income so that you can go and do nice things. It's a heck of a lot easier to go to a movie with popcorn and a drink than, not going to a movie and not having popcorn and a drink. Maybe a stupid example. I just thought of it off the, top of my head here. But being able to do things is nice. But my major takeaway was we don't have to spend money to be happy. Another major takeaway was I need to take my health more seriously if I want to enjoy early retirement longer. Your health is your greatest asset next to your time, but they kind of go together. If you're not healthy, if you're unable to be mobile, it really has an impact on what you can do, your happiness. And so I want to make sure that I am taking my health more seriously now before it's too late. I've seen dozens and dozens of videos and read articles and stories of people with their greatest regrets. And almost always they touch on the topic of health. I don't want to listen to all those stories and have not taken action and look back on my life and think, why didn't I listen? Why didn't I do something about it? And that was a major takeaway for me here this last year, was that I need to take my health more seriously.
Hi!
And the last major takeaway from last year was reflecting on my own experience. When I think about me and where I'm at and my surroundings, that happiness is a state of mind. If you're an optimistic person before retiring from your day job, you will remain an optimistic person after retiring from your day job. But on the flip side, if you're a pessimistic person before retirement, if everything's negative, everything's bad, everything's crap, you're likely going to be a pessimistic person after retirement. I've learned that happiness is a choice, and only you can decide to be happy or not. And for me, going into this third year of living off my portfolio, for me, I choose to be happy. Thank you so much for watching.